There are times we feel rejected and need the acceptance of those who understand or seek to understand. We reach out to those about us who will not turn us away. There are times we seem to have been singled out for criticism, for rebuke, for attack. We come here in the calm confidence that whatever our condition, we will find welcome here. Here is a safe place of the soul where we can tell our stories to those who will listen and care. Here is a sanctuary of the Spirit where we can pour out our hearts to those who will accept us as we are. Here is a people with the courage to include those who have been excluded. Here we rejoice in the welcoming congregation. May all who seek its healing power be blessed by these moments together. Welcome. I do want to acknowledge that this is Veterans Day weekend, and in this city of so many people who serve our country, I think it's appropriate that we ask our veterans to stand. Thank you, thank you.
If you will rise in body or spirit as you are able and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 295 in your hymnal. If you will, remain standing while we recite the covenant of this congregation found in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated. Our words for meditation today come from the Reverend Harold E. Babcock, and they will be followed by a brief moment of silence for reflection, meditation, or prayer. Let us be quiet without and within. Let the stillness be in us. May we find the deep places of the soul and begin to let go of the distractions which plague us. Here may we find peace.
So I understand that the song we're about to sing is one you sang last week, so I don't have to worry about whether you know it, and the choir is going to come up, right, and help lead this song. And then at the end, I want us to turn it into a meditation. So if the choir would come on up. It always helps to be able to look at people's mouths or their body motion or hear. Every one of us sings from different cues, okay? So the words are on the screen. Now, anybody who wants to just continue doing that can continue doing that, and I think the choir's going to add some things, and if you know how to add some other parts to it, go ahead, but I'm just going to be singing that one thing. So, Transgender Day of Remembrance is an annual observance, as we heard, on November 20th usually. We're doing this a little early because this is when I'm here. And it's to honor the memory of those whose lives were lost in acts of anti-transgender violence. And the first one was 1998, honoring Rita Hester, who was murdered for being transgender, and her murder has yet to be solved. And then a year later, in the city of San Francisco, a candlelight vigil was held to mark Rita's death. And then all of the others have been added. And so every year there is a reading of the names, which we will do following my message. So the theme for November is attention. And this is one of the things that Unitarian Universalists are paying attention to this month. We also pay attention this month to things for which we are grateful. And we lift up those whose lives have been lost to violence, and which is often the result of bigotry and fear. But we give thanks for people who live bravely, knowing that simply being who they are takes courage every day. My earliest memory of a transgender person was a hairstylist in Birmingham, where I used to live, Birmingham, Alabama. Ms. Sid. And I first heard about Ms. Sid from my sister-in-law, who also lived in Birmingham. And if I remember correctly, she was a client at this very popular 5 Point South hair salon in the late 60s. What I knew about Ms. Sid was that she got a lot of attention when Mr. Sid's coiffures became Ms. Sid's coiffures. And there's a lovely picture of her, you can Google it, pointing to the sign. She was extremely tall, I remember that, 6'4", 200 pounds, and strikingly beautiful. And a few years after I heard about her, I learned that she had been shot and killed in Birmingham. And for a long time, that's really all I knew. That was enough, though, for me to feel a powerful impact. Her story stuck with me because that kind of violence in real life, not on TV, was shocking to me at that time. And then it just hit me that it was so horribly sad. Someone who had gone through so much to become the whole person that they longed to be, and then to end up being shot to death. Just hurt to think about. So from time to time, I tried to find out more about Ms. Sid, and it seemed that nobody remembered. And then even when we got internet, and you could Google just about anything, I still didn't find anything about her until just a few years ago. I found her story, written by a Birmingham native, Julie Buckner Armstrong, in an article titled Transgender Warrior, the Story of Birmingham's Jody Suzanne Ford. So what I share with you now is mostly what I learned from the history that she was able to piece together from news, interviews, and from interviews with people and from articles. But I was very interested because I'd been searching for this story for a long time. So Ms. Sid came to Birmingham from New Orleans in 1965 as Sidney Ford. Ford starred on the Bison's basketball team at David Lipscomb, a faith-based college in Nashville, and played semi-professional football with the Miami Bombers in the 1962 season. He had married and had a son. At some point, Ford told Kay Kent of the Birmingham Post-Herald that she knew from childhood she was female, even though her body was male. Other than a couple of clandestine organizations, there were almost no places to find community or people with whom someone like Ford could openly discuss their needs. I went into the homosexual world and found right away that I didn't belong, Ford told the Post-Herald. I was more of a misfit there than I am in the straight world, even with everyone knowing what I am. As this crisis unfolded, Ford's wife divorced him and refused to let him see their son. Ford came to Birmingham with well-known singer and performer Frida Wallace, his friend in New Orleans, who was coming to Birmingham for what they called a residency at Homewood's Domino Lounge. He married an understanding woman named Wanda. Ford insisted that she be seen as normal, as fully human, during a time that many Americans considered transsexuals and transvestites to be mentally ill or worse, criminally dangerous. People like Ford risked their lives and livelihoods defending their right to be themselves. Activist Leslie Feinberg calls them transgender warriors. So Armstrong wrote, transgender individuals cross the most fundamental identity boundary, sex. As a result, they are feared and misunderstood. Even transgender warriors with fashionable hair salons can lead socially marginal, nearly forgotten lives. On the books until 1975 was Alabama's criminal sexual psychopath law, which stated that a sex criminal could be confined to a mental hospital until cured. a scary prospect considering that sex criminal meant anyone from a murderer to a gay man to a heterosexual cross-dresser. Laws like this and periodic crackdowns by Birmingham police most likely account for a good bit of Ford's jail time, as reported by the Birmingham News. Ford transitioned from Sid to Jody between 1972 and 1974. And the catch-22 was that gender reassignment surgery required a mental diagnosis to qualify. Now, in current medical practice, I understand a diagnosis is still required, and the U.S. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM, names it gender dysphoria. The article gave what Ford's to-do list looked like. And beyond the medical realities and the business necessities were things I would not have thought of. Get trans ID card. It says, see Trans Liberation Newsletter. Buy makeup. Dermablend works well on 5 o'clock shadows. Learn to apply makeup so that you look like a woman, not a drag queen. Replace wardrobe. In parentheses, Cook and Love shoes in Memphis for size 13. Buy wigs. Lose weight. Relearn how to sit. Relearn how to stand. Relearn how to walk. Relearn how to talk. Tell stories, not jokes. Remember details about people. Listen. Relearn manners. Let men open doors. Pull out your chair. Insist on being ma'am. Relearn unconscious gestures. Smile at other women. Pay attention to children. Talk with your hands, but not too exaggerated. Close your legs when you sit. Check your hair often. Play casually with your jewelry. Sit up straight. Take up less space. Help clean up when the party is over. If you're a woman, you're thinking, or I was thinking, wow, those are things I do and don't even realize it. I picked up that Judy was quite a character and feisty. Apparently, she didn't put up with much, and she did not remain quiet when offended. Not in a violent way, just in a standing up for herself way. The night she was shot, Jody and Wanda, still together after the transition, had gone to a movie. When leaving, there was some angry exchange with a man named Larry Maddox, who owned a motor lodge nearby. It was reported that he was yelling homophobic remarks and then got into his car and sped off. Ford chased after him in her yellow Cadillac. When they reached the Vestavia Motor Lodge, Maddox ran into his office and came out with a 16-gauge shotgun. District Attorney Ken Gomany said Ford threw up her hands to surrender. Maddox claimed that he feared Ford would attack. Defense attorney Russell McDonald argued that Maddox defended his home, a man's highest ground. The jury sided with Maddox, finding him not guilty of murder. At the time of this article, there was an effort to get Jody's name on the list of unlawfully killed transgender people. So each year, and I think that's true now, although I couldn't find a list that went back that far. I could only find one that went back to the 1980s. But each year, 20 or more people end up on that list. And motive is not a criterion for inclusion, because sometimes the motive is not established. And that list also does not include those who die by suicide, which is also a profound and very recent memory that I carry with me, because one of the young people in my previous church who was in our religious when Alex decided to overdose in the back seat of the car right after calling Mom. But by the time Mom got there, it was too late. And so we had a memorial service for 22-year-old Alex. I'm not going to assume that everybody understands 100% what transgender is, what it encompasses, and I'm not going to go there with all the details, but, I encourage you to do some research to help gain a better understanding. And now I want to read the names of those who have passed away this year from violence. And I think, I'm not going to read their whole story, but I'm going to just say their name and tell you one thing about them, and I think you're going to get a picture of one other sad reality as I do this. Dana Martin, 31, a trans woman of color. Ellie Marie Washtok, 38, a trans feminine person who identified as both man and a woman. Jaceline Ware, age unknown, a trans woman of color. Ashanti Carmen, 27, a trans woman of color. Claire Legato, 21, a trans woman of color. Muleja Booker, 23, a trans woman of color. Michelle Tamika Washington, 40, a trans woman of color and longtime transgender rights advocate. Paris Cameron, 20, shot to death in Detroit, Michigan. Almost all of these people were shot to death. Chanel Lindsay, 26, a trans woman of color. Joanna Medina Leon, 25, a trans woman from El Salvador seeking asylum in the United States, died in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody in El Paso, Texas, in June. Chanel Skirlock, 23, a trans woman of color. Zoe Spears, 23, a trans woman of color. Brooklyn Lindsay, 32, a trans woman of color. Denali Barrys Stuckey, 29, a trans woman of color. Tracy Single, 22, a trans woman of color. Kiki Fontroy, 21, a trans woman of color. Pebbles Ladim Doe, a trans woman of color. Jordan Coffer, 22, a trans man. Bailey Reeves, 17, a trans woman of color. B. Love Slater, 23, a trans woman of color. Alicia Chanel Stanley, 46, a trans woman of color. Itali, 29, a trans woman of color. Brianna Beebe Hill, 30, a trans woman of color. Let us hold just a moment of silence to remember these people, and knowing that there are names around the world of people whose lives are, I've heard, erased or forgotten. I wanted to offer the opportunity, if there are names of people that you would like to lift up, just to say those names. You might have a loved one, a friend, or, and I'll lift up Alex. Just say them out loud, just the name.
Elizabeth Foster. Samantha Dorset. Nate and Dax. Shirley Belton.
Thank you. Now I hope you have a new song to sing in your hearts. I'm going to close with a prayer from Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf, who I think has spoken here once before. Jeremiah has served a number of congregations as interim minister. I met Jeremiah when Jeremiah was serving the Montgomery Fellowship as an interim minister. Jeremiah, or Sunshine, will announce that Sunshine is transgender and genderqueer. We remember those who have been murdered for being who they are, those who face violence on a daily basis, those who have lost loved ones, and those who worry for loved ones. May we come to a time when we cease to shame children around gender roles and expression, where we allow for freedom and exploration of identity and expression, and to a world that operates from love, especially when things are difficult and confusing. May all of us who live with the threat of violence find support and strength, community, hope, and safety from violence. Amen. May we go in peace.